We've been planning this podcast for our whole lives.
Yeah. Redefined. Wait. Here we come.
I watched you go to the World Cup, do broadcasting, start a professional soccer team in the Bay Area, and have watched you also inspire me for the last however many years as I was becoming a mom. So it's kind of why we're doing this together.
Oh, thanks, Arielle.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you walking in your stroller and going, I just sniffed you out. You were an athlete. I could tell. You and Matt. I was like, yep, they're an athlete couple. Totally. And I remember Ricky and I just saying hello, introducing ourselves, finding out you both were volleyball players, and just knew automatically that we were going to be good friends.
Yeah.
I feel like when you meet other athlete moms, especially, you're like kind of cut from the same cloth. You kind of mother similarly because of the experiences we had as athletes, like shape us so much as mothers. And that was almost 7 years ago.
Yeah. Crazy.
But it's been so fun to be part of your world. I mean, you both were collegiate athletes. You played at Pacific where you guys met. And then to watch you and Matt build Bay to Bay, amazing boys volleyball club that is now one of the best clubs in the country. And to see you build this thing, 12 years ago?
Yeah.
And for you to be a mother now to 2 girls, for you to take this platform that you have and show the world what it's like to be a female in the boys coaching world, and now be this big influencer where you've been doing this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, you're showcasing it and you're showing everybody what it's been like and the challenges, and also like the most amazing things that have come along being a female coach with these boys and how they're part of your family. So I am so proud of you.
Well, your intro is nicer than mine is for you. I feel like I need to like talk about you more and more and more and more, but we will.
No,
we will.
I think we're a dynamic duo. We have different backgrounds, but we also are very similar in so many ways. And I can't wait to talk more about how you and I live our lives as mothers, entrepreneurs, but also like bring in these amazing guests that have these incredible stories that haven't been told and haven't been shared. I am super excited to have Brandi Chastain on our show for a lot of reasons. She's transformed so many people's lives and continues to do so. So when we talk about Redefined and people we want to come on and highlight and showcase what they've done and what they're going through, Brandi is someone that I'm like, she is the epitome of all those things. Brandi Chastain, hello. Welcome to our show.
Super humbled to be here.
We are honored to have you here. A lot of people know out there how incredible you are as an athlete, a 2-time World Cup champion, a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, co-founder of Bay FC, a broadcaster, a mother of 2. But honestly, B, what I am most proud of is just how down to earth and humble and caring and loving person that you are. And I feel grateful that you are part of our family's life and that you chose to come on our show, Redefined. So thank you so much for being here.
I'm going to blame my mom and my dad for those things.
Bay FC.
Yep.
Bay FC,
let's go,
baby.
I saw somebody this morning. I was walking my dog and
rocking the merch. Yeah. #1 league in merch. Just saying.
You guys have just so much pride.
I mean, yes.
This year's been surreal for both of you guys on just like this city. I would see people in the airport. I see people and I'm like, you were on the phone in dance class trying to secure funding for this thing and watching this built from the ground up as like a bystander on this whole thing has been unreal, let alone to be in it and to watch you guys do what you've been doing this year and have this come to fruition is just got to be the biggest pride and joy in your life right now.
It's been a wild 4 years. I mean, it was an idea. But when you look back, did you think ultimately one day you'd be a founder of a women's professional team or a investor or?
No.
You knew you'd be involved in the game in some way.
I'm going to say no, because after the first iteration of women's, what were we?
We are the third.
No. What was it called? WUSA.
WUSA, WPS.
Right. Okay. So after WUSA folded after 3 seasons and, the Bay Area Cyber Rays were the first ever women's professional champions.
I love how you try to just throw that in.
I'm not trying to throw it in. I am just stating it.
It's just a fact.
It's a fact. Exactly. Thank you.
No, what else?
It is a fact. It's just a fact. And then it closed. And then when something really hard happens like that, you think, what could be the sunshine? What could be the sunshine? And then myself, Julie Foudy, and Marlene Bjornsrud, who was our general manager, we started a nonprofit for girls.
Mm-hmm.
And that would never have happened if the league hadn't closed. And we've impacted this community with the Bay Area Women's Sports Initiative, aka Bossy and Bossy Girls, on playgrounds up and down this area. And we've had 25,000 girls go through our program.
Mm-hmm.
And those are girls, unlike your daughters, who don't have the fortune of playing organized sports or having resources or people who encourage them to get out there. And so it's a blessing. And so when I say no to being the owner, because at the time I thought, how could I even start a nonprofit? Like, wow. And the fact now that we're literally hitting our 20 years.
Wow.
It's crazy. So I would say I would have then learned that it was possible. But whether I was going to do it, I just thought I was going to be coaching. I just love coaching.
Yeah.
And I love being with players. And I love now the aha moment when you see a young person's eyes light up like, I just did that. And they kind of look around and you're like, yeah, you did.
Yeah, that's such a cool moment.
Yeah, you did. And you lock those eyes and you're like,
I think about our girls, and our girls are being raised amongst aunties like you, Bay FC aunties, you who own a volleyball club. Like, my girls actually think it's normal to go and be anything they want to be.
I mean, our daughters went to their first soccer practice ever.
Oh, yeah.
And then went and sat front row at Bay FC versus Barcelona. Like, literally left practice early to go to Bay FC versus Barcelona. I was like, what is this? But like, what are we even? This is crazy work right here. Like,
I didn't get to watch Barcelona play till I was 23 years old.
Yeah.
So we are living in such a different time, and how lucky and grateful are our girls that they are surrounded by this, and they not only think it's attainable, they actually are going to go out and do those things. And there's no limit. There's no cap. There's no like, we can't. I mean, Olivia was saying last night, she's not going to go to college. She's going to just go straight pro.
Right.
And we're like, go on, girl.
And we're like, okay.
Well, it's like, we'll have a discussion later.
Yeah. We'll talk about this later. And we'll see where college sports is at by that time. So we'll have that conversation later.
In 10 years. A lot can happen. So Brandi, from San Jose, Bay Area, talk about your experience going to Cal, then transferring to Santa Clara, and what those kind of formidable years looked like for you during that time, and how that impacted your career.
Halfway through my second year, I left Cal, but I stayed up there, and I took the city bus from Berkeley to Oakland to go to junior college to make up the credits that I needed to come back. And the reason I had to do that was I tore my ACL in the spring of my freshman year.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. I did both of my ACLs almost back to back, 87, 89. So I basically missed about 2.5 years of college sports. So that was the second kind of like, wow, okay, so you've done it once, you know what it's like, but why me? Why is, you go through all those questions and then you get on with it. I've been incredibly fortunate to have great people in my life. Family, friends, just random acquaintances, random interactions, like very fortunate, spontaneous surprises. So I think people in my life are the best thing about my life, is that I love meeting people everywhere where they are, what they're doing. I think one of the best things that I get to do on a regular basis is when someone says, hey, I was at the 99 game, or I watched that game. And then I get to say, where were you? Who were you watching with? Why were you watching? Cool. Where were you sitting? What was the feeling like? Because I wish I could have been in their seat. watching a women's massive event like that. So people in my life are really important to me, and I just value them so heavily.
What's the coolest story that you've heard from somebody else's point of view?
Oh man, that's
where they were at.
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer because there's so many. Like there's one, it's like I was on a first date and now she's my wife.
That's so cute.
My first kiss.
That's
like
so
the
cute.
game ended, we had a first kiss.
Oh my gosh.
Like things like
That's
that.
so cool.
I was not interested in soccer. And here I was at the golf club and everybody was watching soccer. It was 85-year-olds to 25-year-olds and we all watched together. And so things like that, I've been really fortunate to hear some wonderful stories of young girls who were young at the time saying, I was in second grade and my mom just said, we're going. Or my family, we caravanned from middle of the United States to Pasadena with 2 families. And we got there just in time to get into our seats and watch the game, like things like that. You're like, wow, like the effort and the energy. And honestly, I think it like that feels like love to me. Like they loved their kids. They wanted to have a moment and wow. That's
cool.
That's like pretty neat.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, Brandi, you hold one of the most iconic moments in sports history, like around the world. Like when you look back, are those the moments you think about prepared you for that and shaped you for that? Or what do you think, like what does that feel like to have had those experiences and then ultimately be on the winning team, winning your second World Cup and having that moment and becoming an icon?
Well, I don't think about that. But I guess in moments I allow myself to think like, what was the road like? And, all of us, everybody listening, the 3 of us sitting here, everybody behind the camera can take a pause right now and say, I can own that thing that I've done and I can see the process that it took and I'm willing to do more of that. And so that's kind of, it doesn't matter if it's a small thing or a big thing. Like I feel like that is really something that as humans, if we do that, we got a chance. So I think when I look at the path to that 99 moment, I mean, it was really convoluted. Like when I speak to big groups or I talk to, corporations, I talk about my XY axis and I say, okay, success is up here in the right corner and we're starting down here. And my brother used to say, oh, Brandi, you're so lucky you get to do all these things. And I think my brother thinks my graph looks like that. But when I look at my graph is like this. It's like upside down, backwards, it goes up a little bit, it falls way down. Like it's everything. And I think that's human, right? That's really what it's about. So I had some great success as a young person, my high school years. Then I went to Cal and I had a tremendous year. And then I got hurt. Then I was out. And then I realized I found myself it was literally like I had fallen overboard. And I was literally just surviving. I was just barely floating in the water. And honestly, it was like I got plucked out of the water. And now what do you do? What do you do with your life? How much more do you appreciate it? How can you look at the tapestry that you've already had and then you look at the blank canvas that's down the road and say, how will that be different than what this is, if at all? And so those moments did set me up, I think. But honestly, I go back to my mom again. Like she was just so open and carefree and welcoming and things are going to come your way. Some are going to be good. Some aren't going to be good. You're going to have to make hard decisions. You're going to have to make one decision over something else and maybe you miss that thing, but you really have this. Like the word sacrifice to me, I don't believe that's in my conversation because I chose. And I want people to think like, okay, when do I say, oh, I sacrificed that, instead of saying like, oh, I chose that. Because to me, sacrifice means I had to not do the thing I really wanted to do, but I didn't. I did the thing I really wanted to do.
I love that.
We talk about redefining moments.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest redefining moment in your life?
I mean, I think the thing in college was just a precursor. It was like the foreshadowing to bigger moments when you're on the national team and you're on the World Cup winning team and then you get cut and you get no explanation why that happened. And now if I can use the same metaphor, you're floating. I was floating through life hoping that someone was going to pluck me out of the water. And ultimately, I realized I had to swim for myself. I had to realize what direction was the shore, and I had to swim hard. And that's what I did. And that took almost 5 years to get back on the national team.
What was your transition like to becoming a mother?
Oh, I think initially so my teammates, Joy and Carla, both had kids while we were with the national team. And I just thought that was a miracle. Like, and I was so scared, like inside. I never verbalized that to anybody. Like, could I do that? And I wasn't willing to, honestly, I was very selfish. I don't know if you call it selfish, but I think at the time it was very selfish because I was married. And if you ask my husband now, he'd be like, I would have had way more kids. And I think at the time I was just too scared because I didn't feel I was done doing my career. I was not as brave as my mom was to give up this, to not know what was going to happen. And so that's probably one thing if there's anything that I look back on and say, I wish I could do differently, I would have done that. Because now that I've had Jaden, I could have come back, if the timing was right, so, but again, I didn't know that.
As mothers, athletes, entrepreneurs, we're always on the move, and we need activewear that can keep up. LYCRA helps fabric stretch to fit your crazy schedule, but always recovers to its original shape. It is the reason your favorite Lulu leggings, bike shorts, and tanks hold their shape, wear after wear, wash after wash. So look for LYCRA next time you're shopping for high-quality, long-lasting, flexible gear.
What's been the most redefining moment being a mother for you?
Oh, I've made so many mistakes, Leslie, to be quite frank. I think parenting is the hardest thing in the world. There's just no two ways about it. Anybody wants to argue that, I'm up for that debate. Because you just, those young people have their own personalities and they have developmental stages, and everybody doesn't go through things at the same time. And so, in moments as parents, I mean, gosh, if you did a survey of parents, all parents would probably come to the same conclusion. I want my kids happy and healthy. And to really know what that is impossible because we don't live in their skin and we don't know what feels the best to them. So I would say, and I'm still working on, coming to grips with listening to not hearing, but listening. What is the message that he's telling me? You've got to stop doing this, Mom. Like, and in my head, I'm like, but it's good for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he's like, you're driving me crazy. And I'm like, let it go.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's been hard for me. That's been really hard for me.
Because we're like athletes too. Like,
yeah, it's such a
especially
balance.
Like we've been through it. You've been through incredible things. So it's like you want to like preach to our children what has helped us become who we are. I think, and that's going to be the biggest challenge, I think, for us raising our girls being young too, is right. Like, especially with Ricky playing pro soccer too, like let them create their own path and let them figure it out on their own. And
life's going to be hard enough as it is. Like, we don't have to be the most resilient thing in their life. Totally.
Yeah, like this, it's hard and it's different too, So yeah, I mean, listening is such a simple, like when you say that, but like not listening to your child and not automatically going, but we know we've been through it. We did it, because that's the first thing you'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Best moment you've had as a parent?
Every day is the best day. I mean, honestly, we've had some really scary a lot of turmoil. So, I really feel a lot of empathy for parents who have kids who struggle. It is the most horrifying thing possible. So when I see Jade in the morning and he's alive, like that is brilliant. When he smiles, even more so. Like last night we're hanging out and just hearing him laugh, like really simple things. And I didn't understand that when I started this pathway. Like I thought parenting was being the guardrails and giving the lessons and, being kind of staunch in not letting go of certain things. And I'm still not good at it. I'm saying these words out loud so I can remember them, let him be himself. He's gonna, he's adult now and he's gonna make choices that you wouldn't choose. And you just hope that in the long run that he learns, that he experiences, what he experiences leads to choices that will be better for him in the future.
Mm-hmm. Your mom, I remember her at Santa Clara my freshman year. But you talk a lot about your mom and dad and the presence and impact that they have had on you. Most recently, we had an interview about Bay FC and you just said, I wish my mom and dad could be here to see what we've built.
Are you going to try and be like Barbara Walters and make me cry?
Yeah,
what's up?
right, Les?
I know, shoot. But
that's okay. That. No, it's good. I love talking about them.
I mean, you're so lucky and fortunate to have two incredible parents. Can you talk just about the impact that they had on you on the soccer field? Yes, but just as you as a person and what it had on you.
Yeah, I mean, I saw my parents as great parents and as great people. And I loved being with them. And I think now as a parent, I'm trying to do the things I'm doing. And I will say, admittedly so, I've not probably been as great of a parent as I could be. And I'm hoping that I have a chance to become. And I think, saying that out loud is quite vulnerable and uncomfortable. But I think it's really important because to the title of your show, Redefined, is like, just because I've made a mistake or I didn't do it right that time, I have a chance to do it differently. Mm-hmm. And so what I see in my parents is my mom would say, Brandi, there's always going to be someone who's going to tell you no. Well, suck that up because that's going to happen, but you can find your yes. Mm-hmm. And that really hit home for me. My mom was someone who decided that, you have to remember she was born in the late 40s. Mm-hmm. And so nobody was really looking at her and her peers as being executives or entrepreneurs or CEOs. Nothing like that. I think there was like four spaces in the workforce where they could fit in: secretary, teacher, nurse, mother. Mm-hmm. Wow. Like those were the places that you saw women. And my mom was like, well, I want to be a flight attendant because she loved people and she loved going places. And so she did that. And then it just so happened that my dad went into the military and then they wanted to be married and have kids. And you can't do that and be a flight attendant at that time. So she gave up her career to have a family. And I think that even women today are doing that still. And especially, let's be honest, like in professional sports, you can't do both. Our counterparts can do that. And so that's a really tough space to be in. And how do you make those decisions about what's the right time? Can I even do it? Can I come back? Those are really hard. And so I think now that I didn't get to have this conversation with my mom, I didn't get to tell her, can you swear on this? Holy shit, Mom.
Yeah.
You did something that was so spectacular. And I don't even think you knew it. You got your career, your dream career job. You gave it up. You raised children. And then you started slowly getting back into getting outside of our home and doing whatever it was that was available, not what you loved, but just things. And then you turned into a vice president of a company that I literally last week met a woman who owns 4 stretch labs or 5 stretch labs. She's an entrepreneur. My mom used to go to her mom's nail salon, and this young girl watched her mom work for 50 years to help her family. And my mom would come in and talk about her jobs and inspired this girl. And when she graduated from high school, my mom gave her $20 and she thought, that woman changed my life.
Wow.
I just heard that story. Like, unbelievable. So she was a force of nature. And I just think she was wearing business suits in Silicon Valley before Silicon Valley even existed.
Yep.
I love that
She worked
story.
with HP, IBM, like all the big companies. And so she's really my hero. And my dad, on the other hand, became my coach, and he didn't know anything about it. But he was willing to say, okay, I'm going to take my daughter to the library to get the 2 books and the 1 VHS tape so I can support her in the thing that she absolutely loves. And if I'm going to have to be the coach, I better know about it.
To what age did he coach you till?
16.
What?
Wow.
I didn't know this.
And then he was like, I don't have anything else to offer. Something has to, you have to go somewhere. And that's kind of like right around the time I started with like national team camps, like just before that.
Yeah.
But he coached me until I was 16.
So what's next for you, B? AFC is, our inaugural year is done. Coming into year 2.
Yeah. Obviously, do whatever necessary to help our players be as successful as they can be, because if they're successful on the field, they have a chance to impact so many people off the field. They themselves, watching them grow too. Like we've always said, part of this has nothing to do with soccer. It has everything to do with who these people are,
for sure,
and who they'll be in their future. And honestly, I think selfishly, I'm saying, we want them to tell everybody, hey, I came from Bay. Like this is what happened here, and I will never forget it. Like that's important. That's really important. So, and not easy to do. I don't think that's easy to do.
No, we're going to be their launch pad.
Yeah.
Whether it's in soccer, whether they become a CEO, a leader in their company, it's going to be what we've cultivated here and prepared them for and worked very hard to provide these opportunities for, to go on and do some pretty incredible things.
Yeah. It's parenting again.
It is. Coaching and parenting. It's such a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to my dad's Hall of Fame induction, and somebody went up there and said, being a coach made him a better parent, and being a parent made him a better coach. And it was the most like special thing to hear that about. And it's something that I feel that as well. Like we've talked about how I didn't win until I had a kid.
Yeah.
Like that's a very powerful feeling of like finding that balance, taking care of somebody else, which is parenting.
Yeah.
And bringing that into you as a coach is just such a powerful thing.
It's a superpower.
Yeah, it really is.
I think it's a superpower once you become a mom, because you truly feel like you can do anything.
Yeah.
And it puts things in perspective. And I don't know about you both, but I just feel more ambitious and motivated being these girls' mom.
Yeah.
And I have all 3 of them looking up at me every day. And it's like this feeling of like, I'm motivated and inspired by them to to continue to do and build and do these things.
Yeah.
Like,
that feeling for you isn't natural to me. And having somebody next to me that feels more motivated and more powerful of like, this is what I'm doing, makes me be like, oh no, I can do that stuff too. Like, that's not like both of us have very different feelings on being a mom, I think, and like how that is natural or isn't natural, or how that feeling affects us. And I think that like that some people identify with one thing and some people identify with the other. And no matter what you identify with, you still have little kids looking at you and being like, okay, like what's normal here? So having you next to me doing this has been very, very helpful for me as well.
Well, it's true. When I look back on the U.S. Women's National Team, when I was a baby, when you were about to end your international career, is I saw Christy Rampone have a young baby in the locker room and Kate Marcraft having twins and breastfeeding at halftime and traveling to Japan with babies and South Korea. Like, that was normal to me. I just thought, oh shit. But that became normal.
Yeah.
So I think when you see it, like we tell our kids, you can be it. Like, that became like, okay, that's what we do.
Yeah.
All right. So when I did have kids, it was like, no, we're still going.
Yeah.
So like for you, like, I think if you see it, you feel like, all right, is that not only attainable, but you can also push those boundaries and keep going.
Yep.
And still be a great mom.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think we're in a place now, I would say, as in humanity, where because we had something so disruptive like COVID, that we can also now say, I need help.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know, and I think women have been so brave throughout history. You know, rearing children, obviously, we've already decided, we've all voted that it's really, it's hard. It's hard. You have to make a lot of decisions and your choices, and then you have to be able to, fight through the hard stuff and, all that. But I think it's really important that we also say, like, okay, I can't do all of this. I could not at this point raise Jaden by myself. I wouldn't want to either. Like, he needs other people. And I need other people. And that's really critical. And so I'm done with like trying to be the toughest person on the block. Like, I'm tough and I'm going to try hard things and I'm not going to be scared because my mom's like, why are you afraid of anything? I'm like, I don't know. So I'm not. She gave me fearlessness, but I think I also will say, hey, I need, half an hour of your time, or I don't know I've never had to write a resume because I've been playing sports my whole life. And today I'm going to go and meet with somebody to write a resume. And I feel at 56 years old, like, I feel a little weird about that. Like, Brandi, you should already know how to do that, but that's not something I know how to do. And I've just put it out into the world that I don't know how to do that, but I'm okay with asking for help to do that. So I think that's important.
Thank you for being an incredible guest and coming on our show.
I love being first. I'm going to tell you, I've had a lot of firsts in my life, so I get to add this to my list.
Good. Yeah,
I'm putting it on my resume.
Brandi interview.
Yeah. She was here last night. We're having a party. She's here this morning. It never gets old for me to be in front of her. And she's just so wise. And I always take away things from her. But for me, I still like sometimes pinch myself. And I'm like, I can't believe that's Brandi.
Yeah.
Like, my 17-year-old self watching her on that television and what she meant for me and how she changed the trajectory of my life and what I can be, to being my good friend, my business partner, my teammate.
Yeah.
And to hear her be so raw and vulnerable and open and funny. And like, I don't know, Brandi for me is just like, she's just a wholesome human being that brings all of the things that you're just like, I can't believe you have one of the most iconic moments in history, but you're also like just another person.
Yeah, totally. Well, my soccer career actually started and ended in second grade. So for me to go from second grade, where I was at on that team, to sitting here and interviewing Brandi Chastain is just an incredible trajectory for me. Yeah, I mean, it was just such a cool. It's like you're talking to one of the world's greatest athletes, and you're talking to the personality hire at the same time. It's like, how do you get both of those things at the same time? It's just she's such an anomaly of like, so cool, so relatable, and obviously just world class in how she's done things. So, and to hear her talk about her struggles and talk about things, that be open about stuff, is something that I really aspire to be like. So
one of the biggest takeaways for me was like just talking about like what she could do better or what she would go back and do as a mother. And she was just like, listen more. Yeah. Like not hear, but actually listen. Mm-hmm. Like, and that hits me. I'm like, gosh, am I doing that for my girls? Am I hearing them, or am I actually listening and getting to know? And we have multiple kids, and getting to know our kids for who they are and what they need at
and their
that
differences.
Yeah. And how she was like, I'm like telling Jaden, no, I know better. Like I've done this before. Keep going. And that's how you and I are. We're like, you're not going to stop.
Yeah.
You're going to keep running until
just
you make
go.
it. And that's why listening to Brandi, who's now like has a 19-year-old son, right? And on the other side, and her to give us that wisdom of just like, hey, I wish I would have listened more and actually like taken a beat and a pause and not force things upon him. That for me was one of the most impactful takeaways of our time with Brandi.
Welcome to the Weekly Flex presented by LYCRA Brand. Each week, we'll share how we had to stretch ourselves or get flexible while juggling all of our to-dos. To be real, there are many times where we have to pivot and make that last-minute adjustment. At least we look good doing it. Thank you to LYCRA.
When shopping at Lululemon or wherever you may get your athletic clothing, be sure to look out for LYCRA on the tag.
So what's your weekly flex?
This week, for my flex, my team's been pretty successful.
Go on.
As of late. Well, we won a national championship this summer, which was quite nice.
Yes.
And then went back to our first two tournaments. Actually, we had some local tournaments. Okay. Went through our local tournaments. We probably played about 40 matches, lost one throughout our local. And our
we're 40 and
1. So we were pretty decent in our area. And then we went to Indiana and we won that tournament.
What age group?
18s this year. So the oldest level of club boys. So the 18-year-olds, all of them seniors in high school that will be going on to play in college next year.
And how many college coaches are there watching these
all
boys?
Of them. Boys volleyball, a little bit smaller of a market than girls volleyball. But the majority of them at these major events that we go to, all of them are there.
So massive.
Massive tournaments. There is the idea of like, what are these tournaments? What it looks like is like 70, 80 volleyball courts in one space. So with like volleyball as far as your eyes can see. And then we play in front of the crowds of all those people. And it's a whole big deal.
It's cool. What'd you do to celebrate?
We take all the trophies to the pool and we put them in the lazy river. So that's as big of a flex as it probably gets, is going through that lazy river. But it's so much fun. And like the kids love it. And the parents love it. And
I don't know if my weekly flex is going to compare to that. So.
I don't know.
My weekly flex is graduating Harvard Business School.
I know. Harvard HBS. Grad.
I don't know if I can say grad, but I did get a certificate.
Love that.
So this program is called HBS's Crossover to Business, and it's dedicated and designed for professional athletes and retired athletes to apply. And if you get into the program, and this year we had 50 cohorts of NBA, MLB, volleyball.
Some volleyball players,
We had a huge variety of sports, even some dancers and ballet. And you apply for this program and they pick 50. And we got to go to Harvard in September, meet in person, go to classes. I learned a ton along the way. I made it to the top 10 presentations.
Of course you did.
And actually had to decline because we're filming our podcast.
Oh,
and they were like,
no.
oh my God, no, but that's so cool.
Yeah.
And
You really just didn't want to keep going back to school.
Yeah,
you
I
were
was
like, I'm done with school.
We were done with this. But I'm excited, and I'm telling as many athletes as I can about this program, because if you can start to prepare for business and life after your sport while you're playing is the most valuable thing you do. So for me, I got out of my comfort zone. I was vulnerable. I learned a lot, and I'm super proud of the program and work I did this semester.
So cool.
So that's my flex.
Amazing.
Thanks.
I'm not going back to school.
Just do semester-long programs.
Certificates. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with being out of school, thriving out of school.
But as we're going along this crazy journey, like I saw this itch to keep learning and growing, and you are too.
Yeah.
Like
if you inspire me to go back to school, you're doing. My mother is going to come back here and be like, "Oh, you have redefined her."
Hey, redefine.
Flex.
That's a wrap. That's our first official episode on Redefine. Thank you so much for listening, tuning in, liking and subscribing to Redefined. There are going to be so many more amazing conversations to come, and I can't wait for our next one.
Me too. See you there.